35 years is a long time, and by that time, you'd probably be middle-aged. Sure, the glory days are behind you, but the fire is still there, or at least glimmers of it are. There will be setbacks, there will be mishaps, and there genuinely will be catastrophic events. But you know you're in it for the long run. Blizzard, as much as you love or hate them, is the cool uncle that had a bit of a stumble over time. But he's gotten back up and his 35th birthday is looking pretty great. Before talking about what Blizzard's been up to these days, we gotta remember its humble beginnings. Initially founded in 1991 by Michael Morhaime, Alan Adam, and Frank Pierce as Silicon and Synapse, this was Blizzard at its youngest stage, with it having ports of games like Battle Chess, Lord of the Rings, and Castles. Fast forward a year to 1992 and Blizzard, still under their old name of Silicon and Synapse, started cooking, coming up with their first original IP in The Lost Vikings. Unk was a prodigy, all things considered, because this set the tone for what everyone had to look forward to, with humor, personality, and one of the earlier instances of the Blizzard polish in full effect. Leading up to 1994, Rock and Roll Racing and Blackthorn were released consecutively, respectively. And while they were both great games in their own right, establishing Blizzard in the console scene, nobody was prepared for what was coming next: Warcraft, Orcs and Humans. Warcraft is the type of game that's legendary as a game and as a franchise. While 1994 was the year that Blizzard had to rebrand as Blizzard Entertainment, it was also the year Warcraft was released. It was the storm that was approaching and an entry into some of the first heroes of the storm. Wink wink nudge nudge. The year is 1995 and Warcraft 2 Tides of Darkness gets released. This is it, an unknown frontier of gaming, and Blizzard has taken over the world by storm. Better multiplayer, naval combat, literally everything great about the first Warcraft game, but elevated and brought to a wider audience, making Blizzard a household name in gaming. And it gets even better. 1996 comes along and the devil's in the details, with Diablo being released. Loot grinding, dungeon crawling, and ARPG combat. Diablo is what prepared everyone for the grind that is to come in future games, and we regret nothing of it. But on top of Diablo, they also brought out Battle.net, which made the world smaller for gamers, letting players play with each other easier. Fantasy was there, but what if Blizzard went towards science fiction? Enter StarCraft. If you've been under a rock, this 1996 title is one of the biggest PC games ever, molding the esports scene into what it is today. Think about it. This is the game that exploded in Korea, creating monsters among men. And if it weren't for titles like this, we wouldn't have esports legends like Faker tearing it up across the rift in another title outside of Blizzard. Now going back to our heroes, various spin-offs and sequels would get released leading up to the development of the legendary World of Warcraft in 2004 and Hearthstone in 2014. But when you thought that Blizzard was resting on its laurels, they bring out one of the most defining hero shooters out there in Overwatch in 2016. There was also Heroes of the Storm to capitalize on the entire multiplayer online battle arena or MOBA craze, and while it wasn't as successful as the other franchises, nobody could deny that this game was the love letter to all things Blizzard. Seriously, seeing Arthas, the Lich King, share the battlefield with legends like Kerrigan was pretty wild as a fan. Now that we've caught up with everything important, let's talk about what Blizzard's been up to these days. While not every franchise is active in the current gen like The Lost Vikings, the main pillars of Blizzard primarily revolve around Warcraft, Overwatch, Diablo, StarCraft, and Heroes of the Storm. Heroes of the Storm was released way back in 2015 and was Blizzard's MOBA. Like if you think of Dota 2, you should know that it was the sequel to Dota All-Stars, which was played on a modded map of Warcraft 3, and Heroes of the Storm was like Blizzard MOBA All-Stars. While there was a major esports push from 2016 to 2018, It sadly didn't stand up to par to what the competition was in League of Legends and Dota 2, so sadly the esports dream was scaled back towards the latter part of 2018. It gets worse when you consider it entering maintenance mode in 2022, but all things considered, the fact that it regularly gets balance patches and hero adjustments is still pretty cool of them for whatever player base it has left. Who knows, we might even see hero number 91 out of nowhere, but only time will tell. StarCraft is in the boat of being a community favorite but not really celebrated by Blizzard itself, or at least not directly. The game's still widely played as an esport, even being part of the Esports World Cup in 2025 with Serral from Finland winning. But outside of that, it has its own competitive circuit in the ESL Pro Tour or EPT and the Global StarCraft 2 League or GSL in Korea. As for the game itself though, the last update was almost a decade ago with the release of the remastered edition of StarCraft in 2017. It also did come with the original StarCraft, the Brood War expansion, and StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty being free to download from the site, which was pretty cool. Outside of the game though, StarCraft had been appearing in various crossovers like in Hearthstone, where it got its own mini expansion, an actual miniatures game, and there was even news about StarCraft Ghost resurfacing again lately. It got cancelled before because Blizzard didn't see it as a great game, but with Activision in charge, things might change eventually. Onto the hero shooter side of things, let's talk Overwatch. Overwatch is beloved for the longest time, and let's just say after that Jeff Kaplan interview when he left the team, it kinda makes sense why Overwatch kinda died a bit. The esports were a mess, balancing was all over the place, and it had the sequel in Overwatch 2 that they renamed back to plain old Overwatch but with updated settings. There were lots of new features implemented like stadium mode and hero perks and even a third-person gameplay option, and even bans which should have been implemented way sooner. But really, it's all because of competition that this even happened. Blizzard's been trying to revive the franchise, and for all intents and purposes, it's getting there. All it took was some marvelous rivals and the players going over there to make them make a move. Diablo had been having a great year so far, with it now being Diablo 4 and continuing to have updates as a live service ARPG platform more than anything else. There's an ongoing seasonal model now, and heck, with the roadmap they released in 2025, there's still so much to look forward to. It started out slow with Diablo 4 and of course that entire debacle with Diablo Immortal and not having phones. But at the pace it's going, Diablo is showing signs of life yet again, especially with how strong Vessel of Hatred had been. It also looks like there's more IP collaborations down the line too, and with it being halfway through the year, we have our hopes up. In before it's just McDonald's though, because they did bring back a cow level, but you know what? That'll be pretty funny. Now on to the biggest franchise of them all, Warcraft. You'd think it would just be the one game mentioned earlier, but for Warcraft, there's Hearthstone, the digital card game, Warcraft 3 Reforged, a graphics updated port of the previous Warcraft 3 game, and the biggest MMORPG in the world, World of Warcraft. Sure, we could include Warcraft Rumble, but really the only thing you need to know about it is it's the type of game Diablo was talking about when it came to having a mobile. But realistically, it's still continuously updated and a fun game all the same. Getting back on track, let's talk about real Warcraft. Reforged had a rocky start filled with issues to the brim, with comments like this is the worst remaster there ever is, and while PvP and other online scenarios were mediocre, the solo campaign was great for players just interested in the story. Did it get better? Not really, but it did become baseline playable from an online perspective. Still doesn't reach those high expectations though. Hearthstone is in a similar boat but not as negatively seen. While it may not be at the peaks it once had, Hearthstone continues on with its yearly expansion cycle, even making it more approachable for new players and returning ones as well. While it's not the global juggernaut it once was, Hearthstone, like with other IRL card games, has a niche but consistent community constantly supplied with new sets and mechanics over time. And lastly, the GOAT of MMORPGs itself, World of Warcraft. With a career as legendary as this one, it's surprising to see how it not only continues updating its stories, but even found ways to cater towards retired players. The backbone of Blizzard itself, WoW is currently on its War Within expansion, continuing support for the World Soul Saga started way back in 2024. There's even housing now for active players, which is a nice touch, and even if the current version of WoW isn't to your fancy, WoW Classic remains heavily active with the stories made playing them, mixing together nostalgia and camaraderie like it was the late 2000s all over again. Why talk about all of these games and celebrate Blizzard in the first place? Apart from the 35th anniversary of Blizzard happening this year, 2026 also marks the return of BlizzCon after years of dormancy. BlizzCon established itself as one of the most important gaming events out there back when it started in 2007, and while it's understandable that the hype isn't as strong as it was, having the community back together later in September 12 to 13 at Anaheim, California, fans might be in for a treat with the upcoming releases. There's an esports revival happening for sure, and the classic titles are included like StarCraft. WoW has its spotlight with the finals of the Arena World Championship and Mythic Dungeon Invitational taking place during BlizzCon. And if the rumors are right, we might even be seeing updates on Classic Plus. Diablo also gets its own moment following 30 years of the franchise, and we might finally know what those IP collabs are. Overwatch is bringing back the Overwatch World Cup with the finals happening in BlizzCon of all things, and even Hearthstone has its Hearthstone Masters Tour Championship. The Blizzard Classic Cup has all of the Blizzard favorites including StarCraft, Warcraft, and even Heroes of the Storm in place too. So we might even see more surprises for these classic titles too. 35 years is a long time for anyone, but 2026 is pointing towards this year belonging to Blizzard and a strong comeback in the making. Are you excited for what Blizzard has cooking? Because we sure are. What are your favorite Blizzard games growing up? What are you excited for? Let us know in the comments below. For more content like this and other updates down the line, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.